Look at that. Wow. Wonderful. You know, the theme of this evening is very interesting for me on a personal level. New power and power. If you strip the way new out of it, the question that comes to me, if all these wonderful examples are example of new power, what is old power then? Now I tell you, as someone that grew up in Israel, and I'm sure you know the word Israel and the word power, they come many times together, and not mostly in the most positive light, a lot of times in quite a problematic light. I think the media would say the use of excessive power or unproportional response and all those things. But I'll tell you a secret, only if you tell no one. I'll tell you that, my people, we grew up with stories, many different kinds of stories, and many of them come from the Old Testament. But the weird thing is that whenever we identify with characters from the Old Testament stories, and there is a really powerful character and a really powerless character, we will identify with a powerless character most of the time, like David and Goliath, right? Now I tell you, when you grow up in Israel, these stories, they are not only words on a paper. They're in the landscape, they're in the rocks, they're on the fields, they're in the oxygen you breathe, especially in the part of Israel where I come from, the Galilee. You see, because I grew up on a little tiny hill, not so far from the lake. You know the lake, I'm sure. There is a story about a man that walked on the water. So on that hill, when I was a child, there was nothing. Just imagine these fields, yellow fields, dry volcanic rock, no street lights, not shops, not even a McDonald's. Now I grew up there with my mother and my brother, Daniel. Now you have to imagine my brother, 1 year younger, lighter skin, green eyes, a little ponytail at the edge of his hair. That was the fashion at the time. And he was a little angel. My brother was always there for me when I needed him. Now, I don't know how many of you know the holiday Purim. Maybe some of you do. For the ones that don't, Purim is the happiest celebration in the Jewish culture. Or maybe I should say the only happy celebration in the Jewish culture. If you walk around Israel in Purim, you'll find, people have carnivals and parties, and everyone must get drunk. Yeah, you're not so impressed. It's like any other day in the Netherlands, I know. But the most important thing about Purim is that everyone dresses up in different costumes. It's like Halloween, Now, in my little village, there were no street lights, there were no shops, there was no McDonald's, but what there was an annual costume contest. And we children, we were waiting for it. You better bet that. So I was 7 years old, and it was Purim. And I came back from school with my little brother, Daniel. And my mother, she was at the door. She was waiting for us. And she kind of said, "Come." And she opened the door. And she led us into the living room. And there on a sofa in front of my eyes, what do I see? 2 beautiful lion costumes. Beautiful. The sound of the falling thing could be heard on the floor. By our amazement. The hair of the lion, I remember the chest full of fur. I even remember that they had this long tail with little fur at the end of the tail. And when I looked at those costumes, I knew they are going to win the contest. But there was one problem. What was that? I'll tell you. There were 2 of them. So I waited until my mother went away, and then I looked at my brother and I said, "Daniel, I don't think you should wear that costume, Why? I want to be the lion." "Yes, I know you want to be the lion, but listen, you're too small. This costume is too big on you." "No, what? I like to be the lion." No. Listen, I have a better idea. You will wear a white dress, and we'll put some purple flowers on your head, and you will be Queen Esther, huh? And I will be your lion, the queen's lion. What do you say? Well, I managed to convince him. And the day of the competition came, and I was dressed as a lion, with the hair here and the chest and the fur. And my brother, he was wearing some curtain that my mother placed on around him, and some purple flowers on his head in the last moment. And there I stood in front of all the village, 10 people. And I won. I had a conversation with my brother 2 days ago. I told him, Daniel, I'm going to talk on TEDx. And he said, really? What about? I said, well, I'm going to tell the story about the lion, you and me and this, He heard that story before. And he said, really? The first thing he said, you have to give me percentage. But then he said, anyway, you can't tell that story because it's a lie. I say, why? It's not a lie. It happened. No, of course it's a lie. What? The way you tell it, you present me as if I was this little innocent, weak boy, and I couldn't do anything, and you manipulated me to wear the costumes. And I said, yeah, that's what happened, didn't it? No. You think I didn't know what you were doing? I knew exactly what you were doing. But I saw how much it meant for you. So I gave it to you. Old power, new power. Thank you.